self-discovery archaeologist. Get ready to be the best of you with your host, Beverly Zymet.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Beverly Zymet Show, where being the best you can be is just getting easier. And my co-host and what should we call you? Guest. We'll call you a fabulous woman entrepreneur, right? She is joining me today from Montreal, Canada. Her name is Martine Cohen. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on your show today. I'm really excited. This is actually my first show to be on.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome. You know, I've had a lot of first timers, and I really enjoy that because it gives me an opportunity to really help you understand that it's not that bad. It's not that hard to really get your face in the camera. You know, one of the greatest fears out there is the fear of public speaking. Whether you're standing on a stage, it doesn't matter, right? And so kudos to you for joining in today and just stepping through that little bit of fear, and you know, you're doing good. We just got started.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. So, Martine, tell us what's going on up there in Montreal these days.
So, about the same thing that's going on actually in the rest of the world for once. I think we're all on an equal footing right now, and I think we're realizing that we're much more alike than we're separate. And are also going through a very similar journey. So we're also sort of confining ourselves in the comfort of our homes, which is actually nice.
Yes.
Learning to know each other better, the people that we live with, learning to adapt to a new way of life, at least a temporary one, and really trying to expand and grow within that. Look at it as an opportunity for us to connect in different ways, right? And maybe to take some time to introspect and sort of touch base with ourselves.
That is so amazing. You know, and it is that way. And it should be that way. And I really like what you said, that it's like we're really not that different from everyone else in the world. And I think it's times like this that we begin to realize that, wow, the separation isn't as far removed as what we thought. And with the show, being able to bring women on from different parts of the world is amazing, right? So the technology is great. You know, sometimes it gives you fits, but it's like anything, you know?
When it doesn't work, we have an expectation that it must work all the time. And when it doesn't, I had that yesterday, and I'm glad it's not this morning. It can get a little bit frustrating, but it also lets us know that it's a wonderful tool at our disposal.
But it is, and especially in times like this, it brings that world even closer, right? Even closer.
We wouldn't be able to do this without technology.
It's exactly right. And the technology keeps getting better and better and bigger and bigger. And oh my gosh, I mean, think just 10 years ago where we were with the computer and internet and stuff like that. You know, it was,
a world of difference, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a good thing this didn't happen 10 or 15 years ago.
Woo! That could be interesting, huh? Yeah. We wouldn't have had the connection type of, you know, that we have right now. So it's a blessing, and like you also said, you know, it's a blessing in disguise to get to know even better the people that you're living with, because you know you're there 24/7 now. It's different than when everybody goes to work, kids go to school, you come back home, you know, and you have a shorter period of time, you know, and that I think is a real blessing, to get back into the basics of what community is, the basic of what family is, and to really, like you say, get to know the people that you're around the most. Because sometimes we just get so busy being busy, we forget about that.
Yeah, we do. We have quality time, but we don't have quantity, and now we actually have both.
Yes, that's exactly right. And to really grow together in that. So I think hopefully that part is going to move, you know, back out in, yes.
I hope so. I hope a lot of this learning and growing, we actually continue that expansion and go out there expanded.
Exactly. Exactly. Great words of wisdom right there. So, Martine, what is it that you do up there in
All right.
Montreal?
So I also use technology, so I do it kind of around the globe. So that's been a great tool for me. But basically, what I do is I guide people on their journey. So typically, people that will come to me have some sort of blockage. They're doing well, but they feel something is holding them back. They have some sort of layer, which is why the company is called No More Layers. It's something we strive to live with no more layers so that our true essence can shine forth and guide us on the path that we're supposed to take. So often when we don't know exactly what feels right or something feels off, we don't know what it is. We do know there's something holding us back, but it could be a limiting belief. It could be something that we absorbed from childhood or something from a traumatic experience or even a not traumatic experience, but the way in which we perceived it, the way in which it got filed, internally, and then it impacts and affects our life moving forward. So we go back in time in a very gentle way where we basically dismantle these layers and experiences, bypassing any internal resistance that a person may have. And from that point on, the person sees clearly as if they had a mirror from their inside as opposed to just their physical being.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. I work with people a lot too, kind of on that same avenue, you know, because our past sometimes creeps into that now, which
It does.
also follows us into the future, right?
It does. And the other thing is that, we know now the way the brain works, and we know that 90%, 80 to 90% of what we do is really subconscious programming. And
Right.
only 10% of what we do is conscious and programs the other 80 to 90%. So when we think of that, there's a lot that goes on. It's like an app in the background that's kind of working in the background. That's kind of how our brain works. And we don't
Right.
realize, right, that a lot of what we're feeling and doing and how we feel about ourselves and how we show up to an experience has a lot to do with that subconscious programming. So when we have clarity on it and we can sort of discover it and unveil it, things make sense and we can reprogram whatever we like.
And that is so true. That's a key message right there. It's we are in charge of whatever that programming is. But sometimes we don't recognize that there's a program playing, right? And
Let alone know what to do about it exactly.
yes.
And we also need to recognize that we are not our brain and we are not our thoughts and we are not our emotions. Those are
Yes.
signals, those are internal communications. I talk a lot about, I deal a lot with self-talk to success and internal communication, and then, talk and communication with others. But that self-talk and that mental chatter says a lot about our state of being. But we
Yes.
buy into it as if this is who I am, right? And then we
Yeah.
knock ourselves. And were we to hear that from a friend or somebody else, we wouldn't want to be associated to that friend. But we are 24/7, and especially in these times, the mind chatter is racing.
Oh, you got that so right. People are just and it's interesting, with that mind chatter and what happens is, you let it get carried away and it jumps into that fear because we live in such a negative world, right? And of course, all the information that's going out there, across the waves in the media, it's like don't listen to that stuff because it just drives you further down that rabbit hole of fear, right? And it's like, how do we get past that? It's like, look at what your situation is. What can you do to make it better? And that's kind of what this show theory is all about. How do you become that better you every single day? What are the steps that you're taking to become a better you? And that's the journey that we're on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it is. And in a time like this, it may be a bit more challenging for people simply because there's a different way to do the same things that we used to do.
Uh-huh.
The way we used to do things no longer works. We still have the same needs, but we have to learn to meet them slightly differently. So then there's another aspect that comes in that also plays into the fear you were talking about is how adaptable and flexible are we from a mind and emotional perspective?
Right.
Right? Can you really flow with those new waves? Can you still be that surfer on the ocean, but your ocean has changed? Right? You have a different
Yes.
ocean now. You don't know the waves as well. You're still as good a surfer.
Right.
So first of all, you have to remember that, right? And you have to trust in
Right.
that. But just your ocean has changed a little bit. Your landscape has changed. You're still you. But can
That's
you
right.
adapt to the new landscape? It's not that you've changed. You can still trust yourself, but that's also some like a transition, and there's fear in that as well. And there's a lot of fear in the unknown.
Oh, you just hit the nail on the head right there. It's the unknown. And, your unknown is unknown because you haven't put what you know in there, right? So when that brain chatter starts working, and instead of working with your mind and understanding what your thoughts are and putting into that new database your belief and your truth, right?
Well,
You
that's it.
keep
So exactly that. We
yeah,
have to remember that we're still ourselves. So we're showing up to
yes.
a new experience, but we're not a new being that we've never met before. It's just a new set of circumstances that we've never encountered.
Yeah.
But if we actually remember who we are, we remember our strengths, our weaknesses, how to work with ourselves. That's the internal communication. Can you work with yourself from the inside out? Can you be
Yeah.
your own best partner? Then you can you can show up to a new set of circumstances confident that you'll be able to handle it, just like a new project at work,
Right.
because you can base yourself on what you know about yourself to be true.
And that's very important. That is such an important message right there, is showing up as your real self. And then I think this is a lot of the issues, that people have too out there. Hey, comment below if this has been a problem for you out there, where you're not sure who to be in different circumstances, right? You're at work, you're a different person. At home, you're a different person. On vacation, you're a different person. Who is the real you? And it's really unique in how you said you are the person, you are still you. That has never changed in whatever situation. It's the ocean that you're floating on, which I love that analogy. Your outside world has shifted in what but you, if you're the true you and you come from the heart of who you are, right? The real you, your true identity, it doesn't matter what circumstances that you're placed in, you're still going to be you. You still can have all that confidence and all that trust and all that belief. Be aware of and be cautious of what's going on in the new circumstances, in the new world that you're, kind of maneuvering through. Caution is not fear,
Exactly.
right?
And caution is part of the way that you're using the word caution is kind of raising awareness and raising awareness about
Yes.
ourselves. Not so much. So our focus, when you were talking before about the news, our focus is so outward. It really needs to be inward. We're
Yes.
assessing our situation based on, okay, what did we hear in the news today? And what's going to happen tomorrow? What's going to happen the next day? So that's ever evolving. But internally, we're not ever evolving at that speed. So we can go inward rather than be outward so much. And the stress that people are feeling in the mind chatter and the race of the mind that's going a mile a minute is when it's focused on outward circumstances over which it has zero control, and it knows that. We never have
Right.
control, but we think we do.
Yes.
Now we're clear that we don't. So that's the extra stress that people are feeling. Whereas if we turn inward, then it's our inside world becomes more important than our outside world. And over that, we have 100% control. And through sort of the methodology that I work with and other modalities as well, they're all to get people to figure out and to discover their true self, their true power, and then come towards the outside world with that. But it's the inside world we're needing to nurture, because the inside world then reflects itself outwardly.
Yes, it does. It does, and that is so true, so true. And I think that's where a lot of us forget about it, because it's easier to put the responsibility to the outside world than it is to the inside world, right? Because we want to look good. We want to look good to everybody out there.
Right.
But
we
this
really
is where we need to look.
ourselves, right?
Yes.
And the other
Yes.
thing is that we can see the outside world. We don't see our inside world.
Yes.
The communication is indirect. So when I
Yep.
teach clients about, self-talk and internal communication and self-talk success, it's really all about understanding the different components on the inside of who you are. Because that's where the communication, sometimes we want to deny it, or we don't like how we feel, or we don't like how we're showing up to something, but we can just question it and start from there. It doesn't have to be the way that it is.
Right.
So, and often it's not the way we want it to be because of all those layers hiding who we really are, and we have to dismantle them.
Yes, that is so true. That is so true, and that's one of the things I think where we need to really recognize what these issues are, but also recognize that this isn't the me I want to be. This is the me that I was because it's the database of information that I had. And so therefore everything is, on autopilot now because it's what you have done so many times. That habit has become an autopilot, but it also has become a personality trait, and you become predictable, right? So what can you do to become unpredictable? And when you can become unpredictable, people will look at you completely different. You will look at you different. You will feel different. You will respond different. And that's when life can start going forward much faster than what it is right now. And you don't beat yourself up, right? Because
That's
you're
the most important part.
yes.
That negative self-talk only sort of reinforces all those limiting beliefs you have about yourself in the first place, and you would never speak to anyone like that if you wanted to find, favor in their eyes type of thing. So why would you speak to yourself? The other thing is you can't walk away from your self-talk. You can walk away from somebody who's saying something that you don't enjoy or don't want, but
Right.
you're kind of stuck with that. So it
Yes.
needs to be a positive, reinforcing one that actually gets you to your goals and helps you along, like being your own best friend type of thing, right? Your number one cheerleader.
Definitely.
In a way that gets you to go and perform and feel the way you want to, and walk down the path in life that you want to, and experience in the journey of your own life what it is that you're meant to experience and what it is that you really want to experience.
Exactly. And there's so many different ways to do that, right? All the different techniques that are out there, it's what's the fit for you. That's what you have to ask yourself. What is going to work for me best? Which modality? Do I have to go here? Do I have to go there? And it's not about stopping with one person. It's maybe having that circle of influence, because each person that is coming across your path is there to help inspire you and to grow. And there's segments, you reach a certain plateau with someone because that's their expertise, and you want something better. And so what do? You find that person, or the person you've been working with, the coach you've been working with, you've built that trust. And they're not going to be upset if you say, I feel I'm just kind of at a plateau here. I have loved everything, that you've taught me, where my growth has gone, but I want to go here. Any idea how I can get there? And that's where we as coaches say, in my circle of acquaintances, I have someone who can probably help you get to where you're going, because that's not my expertise. And you share that with them. They have more honor and respect for you. They're not going to just write you off as a non-existent being. You're still in their world. And what are they going to even more do is probably send you clients, because you're not holding them back. And I think that's one of the things we as practitioners sometimes are so afraid to share and work with others in the field, to help our client get to all those levels they're looking for, and to really recognize in ourselves that this is our level of expertise, and that's where I need to make people shine. But I am big enough to say, hey, we're done here. You have so much more potential that I am not in the position to reach. Let me help you find someone that can give you that, right? And share that, rather than be so afraid to keep a person, just keep on coming back and coming back and coming back, because we're afraid we're going to lose our client. And then, oh my gosh, we're going to lose our financial income, and oh my gosh, my lifestyle is going to change. Things like that happen. That's that brain chatter too, isn't it?
Well, so it's interesting that you bring that up, because you were talking about fear, and a number of my clients are actually coaches, because what what's really important, especially for a coach who's of service to others, is they also need their circle of inspiration. They also need their
Yes.
circle of guidance. Often coaches themselves forget to go get their own self-care, and they forget to go get their own insight and guidance. And though, people who help others need that sometimes even more. And
Right.
so that fear that you're talking about actually will probably be a self-fulfilling prophecy. When we have fears, we focus so much attention on them that
Right.
without us realizing, they become one of our intentions almost. So we make them happen, right?
Right. Oh, exactly. That is so true. Yeah.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
inadvertently, and that's the last thing we want, and that's the thing that we manifest, because that's the one we're focusing on all day long.
Yeah.
Because our brain doesn't know the difference between not and doing the thing. So if you say, I don't want to be afraid, all of a sudden I feel fear. But if I want to say, I want to be courageous, I've expanded. Even just saying the words.
Right.
Feel it lands differently. So that's all part of internal communication.
Yes, and that is so true. What you think on is what you develop, right?
What you deal with is where you're going to go, is where
Yeah.
your vibrational frequency is going to bring you.
Yeah.
So it's not about the client, it's about being of service. And I believe that we come down here on earth and we all are helpers to each other on our journey. By the way,
Right.
the clients are also something for the coach, and the coach is something for the client.
Well,
It's a beautiful exchange.
Oh,
right? We
it-
all grow from each other.
yes.
So when we outgrow that, it's almost organic, where you'll just go to somebody else, and that person will help you on your journey, and your coach will get somebody else. It's totally fine. It's that part of that beautiful synchronicity.
Well, it is. Every student is a teacher, and every teacher is a student, right?
Absolutely.
And
We're all
so,
students of life.
and that's how it should be. And I think with the circumstances going on in the world today, that we're starting to see more of that, right? And that's kind of what I wanted to accomplish here with this show. Now, I started the show before all of this happened, and it just happened to fall into place, about that being that best you, right? And it is about who is the true you, where is your identity, and that's one of the things that I work on too. And it sounds like where you're going with all the mind chatter and the work that you do too is you're helping people to really find and understand the identity of their true self, because without knowing who you really are and what makes you tick inside here, you can't perform 100% out here. You can only perform on your outside world how you perform on your inside world.
Yes,
right?
And if you want to change your outside world, it's actually about going and changing and working on your inside world. You can
Exactly.
change everything in your life by the work you do internally, which means it's really, really powerful.
Right.
So we call your identity on my website and my work, I refer to that as the essence of the person, right? It's the same kind of thing. And so to discover that essence and sort of that motor, that inner core from which everything else that you want, you can create. That one often has layers and dust from years, and sort of like we're afraid to go around here, and we have a fear, but the fear, we're afraid of the fear.
Yes.
So there's another layer there, right? Or sometimes we're afraid of going inside, and what are we going to find?
Oh, sometimes we go inside there, it doesn't look good, it doesn't taste good, doesn't feel good.
It's a little dark. Exactly. So,
Yes.
So the idea is, first of all, to quieten the mind, and I do a lot of meditations and I do a lot of visualizations, depending on the comfort level of the client, and we have a conversation, and I have I guess a spiritual gift that I was born with, where I can read a person's energy. So for me, that helps me very much. 5 minutes into the conversation, I know where they're at.
Right.
And then I can gently guide them to where they want to go in the way that best works for them, without encountering internal resistance, without it being too intense or too fear-provoking. So it works really nicely, and in that way I can also really perfectly customize it to each client.
Right. Oh, I so agree with you. And I know when I've always had that same gift, but it was learning what that gift was all about, right? And it's like, okay, so what is this? Because it's like you have this knowing that you don't know how but you know it, right? And you just kind of
scan. For me, it was trusting it. For me, it was trusting it. And so if you allow me for a minute, I just wanted to explain, if you allow me,
Go ahead.
how No More Layers came to be, because that in and of itself would explain why I do what I do.
Okay, go ahead. Share with our
So,
audience. Yes.
about 4 years ago, I suffered a very serious concussion. I worked in the corporate world as an attorney, actually.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, so my brain, as you can imagine, and I still do some work with that, but most of it is focused on what I do now, and I work with corporations and individuals in the work that I do through No More Layers. So as you can imagine, my brain was my biggest asset. I identified, we talked about identifying ourselves with
Sure.
something that's not who we are. I very much identified myself with my brain. It was my number one working tool. I had a very serious concussion and I was diagnosed with post-concussive syndrome. So I couldn't retain anything. My short-term memory was gone. I couldn't access some of my long-term memory, and I knew I couldn't access it. I would try to remember something, and it felt like there was a blockage in my brain. I had no reflexes on the left side of my body, so I couldn't move my eye beyond a certain point, nor any parts of my left side, and it was very frightening. As you can imagine, it was very dark time, very scary. I remember my kids speaking to me. I could understand each word separately, but I couldn't put it together in a sentence. So that was really scary to understand the extent to which you can even temporarily lose your brain, and your brain's your filter to the world.
Yes.
And the doctors and neurologists told me that really, because the brain is so fragile as an organ and so finicky, there's nothing that we can do that's non-invasive. We kind of have to wait and see if it's going to heal on its own. And it takes about a year for that diagnosis. And that scared me more than anything else. I can't just be around a year, because that's scary. It felt like it was like me. I can't lose me.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I mean, it's like you're telling me that I can't be me for a whole year. Well, then who am I?
Or that I may never be me again, because in a year we'll be able to assess the permanent damage. And I was like, oh, no. That was very threatening. That was 4 years ago. Something made me decide to go inward and see what I could do. I had always heard and read about people that could heal themselves, or people that had these holistic gifts. I didn't quite understand what it meant to work with energy in that way, but something reminded me of that, or made me go inward. And I started realizing that the first thing I saw was a lot of darkness and a lot of fear. Even the fear of the fear of the fear, right? Like tremendous fear.
Right.
And I said, I need to face this. If there's anything I can do in this 1 year span, let me face this. And that's how I started discovering this process of No More Layers, of removing one layer after another of limiting beliefs, of things that sometimes is even in our DNA and transmitted from generation to generation, of experiences that were stored in a certain way but could be looked at in a different way, of everything that I found, all the gunk, all the layers that you find from years that you don't even know. Like we said, you don't even know it's there to begin with. Sometimes they're protective layers that are very important when they were set and placed there, but they're no longer helpful. Now they sort of become counterproductive in our life. As we get stronger, we need to remove, like they become like chains rather than, sort of a protective mechanism. And then once I got through all those layers step by step, I said, I need to go do something with my brain. And I started looking inward, and I energetically found the spot that was blocked, that wasn't allowing my reflexes to sort of be mobile again.
Right.
And I started visualizing that energy and tinkering with it and working with it. And I felt it when it sort of loosened up. And I said, next time I have my appointments, I had regular appointments, I have to tell my doctor what happened. I don't know. I don't care if it sounds insane. I have to tell her, because I just lived this, not knowing what I was doing, but so intent on it. And it actually, and I told her the story. I said, you're going to think I'm crazy, but this and this is what I did. And I felt it. And can you please test, my reflexes? And she did. And her jaw dropped and my jaw dropped, because they had come back. So I had learned how to heal myself from the inside out. So my next project was to repair my synapses in my brain. And I went back inside and I found each one, and some I was able to repair, and others I had to learn a new pathway and sort of create a new pathway to circumvent, because it wasn't repairable. And at the end of the day, I healed my brain, and I'm back to full capacity. My memory is back. My ability to communicate with you is back, and my brain power is back. But I know that I'm not my brain. Through that whole process, I really discovered myself. It's like being completely bare, completely raw. You're from the inside out.
Yes.
And and I found that after, behind all that fear at the end of that dark tunnel was actually me. And so move, forward and paying it forward. I want everybody to feel like that. Whoever they are, they deserve to feel their me, their essence, and then choose their life, and then choose what they want to work on. But from a place of choice, not from a place of avoiding fear, or from a place of pain.
Right.
Right? But
Right.
from a true sense of, freedom of choice.
Right. That's such a beautiful story. Thank you, Martine, for sharing that, because
Thank you.
you guys out there, listen to what this woman's story is and what she did. This isn't anything different from what you can do. Energy is powerful. We are an energy being, right? We are the matter that was created through the mind, right? And you can change that. I've heard so many different stories. I've had my own experiences, and I think everyone out there has probably an experience that they just don't recall or couldn't put it in that, in that line, so to speak. But it to be able to do that and to go inward, and it is all about the inward thing, because we are spirit having a physical experience, right? And using that mind power that we all have it. We're all one and the same. And it's unfortunate that it has to happen usually in a major situation like that, right? But to be able to go,
often it does.
Yeah.
Often it does, because when we don't hear the little messages from the universe, it gives us a big bang over the
ouch,
head, and it might take a real big bang over the head.
literally. Literally, yeah. And it's true with any organ in your body. It's true with any pain in your body. How many people walk around with joint pain, from all kinds of things. You go to the doctor and he says, well, it's from this, it's from that, it's from this, it's from that. But it all begins where? With the stinking thinking, right? And the emotions store in the body in all those different places. How many people out there have issues with liver?
Oh, yes.
Right.
Liver or knee joints, moving forward, the fear of moving forward.
Yes.
So
and
after
anger.
This happened to me, I went to learn, I became a Reiki master, and I learned all about energy healing so that I could move over those skills. And it is our thoughts that then become emotions that then sort of calcify almost in our body.
They do.
And become hindrances in our body. And if we understand that, again, from the inside out, really at the onset of it, we can give ourselves a much higher quality of life.
Oh, so true, so true. And recognizing it before it seats in there really, really hard. And like with your gift, I'm sure you probably know this too. When you're working with someone, because you can see into that field, you can actually see destruction coming in, so that you can prevent it before it actually seats. So when you can repair it in your energy field, your physical body doesn't have to experience it, unless that's your choice, right? But
or unless that's part of your journey and that's part of your learning, because then you're going to do something even better.
Yes, that is so true. That is so true. So when you take full responsibility for this vessel that you're maneuvering around in, and every piece of it, you can fix it or you can break it, right? So which side of the fence are you on? We're in this duality world. You can't have both. You can't have both. So kudos off to you, Martine, for, not just settling in and saying, okay, so the doctor is, and you just sort of sit around, just let life pass you by. It's like, no, there's got to be another option. This isn't an option for me, right? I've got to find a way. And sometimes that's what it takes to turn inward.
Oh, absolutely. Right. And I have to say, though, it was really the fear of not being able to do anything, or the fear of saying, whoa, I can't just let it just be. But I rechanneled that fear into something that was very positive and constructive. So the other thing to realize is that we all have fears, and it's okay. We're not going to resolve those things in a minute, but you can rechannel those emotions into something positive. You know, you can rechannel your nervousness into focus, your fear into excitement, because they're reverse energies, but of each other. So within the same family of energy, you can use the energy that you're feeling and garner it to motivate you for something positive.
Right. If you let that fear drive you, let the fear be your driving force in an upward direction, not in a downward direction. I had a guest say something to me the other day where her overcoming fears is she gave her curiosity
Right.
power over the fear, right? So when the fear showed up, the curiosity on the other side of fear was stronger, and that's what she used as that driving force, right, of that fear to drive her curiosity to get there faster, right?
Exactly. So those are brain hacks, because that all comes from the brain, by the way.
Yes.
It all comes from the brain. Our organs themselves are not afraid. Our emotions feel the fear, but they don't trigger fear. It's our thoughts. So when you bypass the brain and you trick it, there are a lot of brain hacks like that, where you can actually, once you understand how your brain works, and I got a clear understanding of my brain when I had to work through all this, and it's like a computer. It has no judgment. So it'll throw at you a whole bunch of things, and whatever you grab. So if you grab that negative self-talk or that fearful talk, it'll give you more, it'll provide you with more thoughts in that theme. And we kind of think, oh, it's probably me then. Whereas we don't understand, it's just a free-for-all. It's like, I speak to my clients sometimes, you go to your mailbox, you can get some junk mail, you can get some mail that's wrongly addressed. So you pick and choose your mail, you pick and choose your thoughts. And when we get become really good at that, then we're going to see that there are more thoughts coming with the right address from the right provider. In other words, with the right messages that we want, right?
Great analogy.
There are fun ways to look at things, but they're all part of brain hacks, because we can't work against our brain. It'll offer so much resistance that we'll be fighting that resistance like having your own boxing match with yourself.
Right.
Nobody wins.
Right.
But when you go around it, you circumvent that brain resistance, you can get very far.
Oh, in a very short time. In a very short time. You talked about the neural pathways, right?
Yes.
And it's put out there, and it's been this belief that, when you're young as a child, you start learning things. If you watch a young baby, right, start to investigate, they get their motors going, right? Now they're crawling, now they're walking, they're into everything, right? Fear is taught. It's not something you were born with.
Oh, correct.
Right? And so their neural pathways are building, continuously, hundreds and hundreds a day, right? From everything that they're going, and they keep going back over. Why repetition? Repetition is what builds that pathway that sends those messages from the mail, as you said, which is your thoughts, all through into that cell memory. And it's the cell memory then that turns on that autopilot, right? You have cell memory how to breathe. You don't have to think about breathing. Now you can think about how deep you breathe, how much oxygen you're taking in, and things like that. But those lungs are going to just keep on pumping. Your heart's going to keep on pumping, right?
And that's a really good thing, because if we have to focus on that, we wouldn't be able to focus on anything else. Exactly. And I think the idea is for us to get our automatic pilot working, but the way we want it to. So get that cell memory for the things that you want it to have memory for.
Well, and that's kind of what you're talking about.
Happiness or joy.
Removing those layers that are piling on top.
Yourself. You can reprogram yourself.
Yes.
You can reprogram the way you're going to think and what you're going to go towards.
And that's building those new neural pathways. Exactly. So it doesn't matter what age you are. You can really rebuild neural pathways. And again, when you look people who retire, right, and all of a sudden they just die, they're retired for a couple of years. Why is that? Because they're so used to being active, and then all of a sudden they stop.
It shuts down.
And when the brain isn't growing, it's shrinking. Yes. And then
it's
you have
the other, right?
Yeah.
It's like there's no status quo. You regress or you move forward.
That's right.
And even to stay where you are, you have to be moving forward.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And so that's a choice. That's a choice. Yes. And
we don't realize we're making that choice, right? We don't always realize. People, I find, come to life in very good faith, and sometimes they just feel a little bit lost.
Hmm. Well, I think we all feel a little bit lost sometimes. You get life gets so busy around you, and you're going, 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 and all of a sudden you step back and you breathe, and you're like, why am I doing this? What am I doing? Am I on track? Am I? You start questioning yourself, right? And then it's like, oh yeah, I remember it was. That's the reason. Okay,
That's
let's get back on track here and go. So life is a roller coaster.
right.
Go for the ride. Go for the ride. And you know what? If you want to jump off that roller coaster and jump onto a different one, well then do it. You can jump
As long as
midstream.
you stay in the game, just stay in the game and play as well as you can. You learn to master the game. It's a game of life, There's different
Yes.
pawns, and you bring different parts of you to every experience.
And it doesn't come with directions. There's no
Oh,
book of
no.
directions.
Well,
So
then it would defeat the whole purpose of growth, right? The growth is
Yes.
organic.
it is organic. It is organic, and that's our choice. So which side of the fence do you want to be on? And you can be somewhere for a short time or a long time. So when you're looking at your emotions and things that are happening in your life that make you sad or uncomfortable, well, you have to ask yourself, how long do I want to be in this feeling, in this situation? Oh, well, yeah, I guess I do have a choice. Well, society says, here's brain chatter. Society says if someone close to me dies, then I must mourn them for an extended period of time, or people are going to think I'm cold and I have no feeling and all this kind of stuff, right? It's like, that's not true, right?
Nope, not
That
at all.
person who decided that their journey was over went to a different and better place, right? They don't want you to sit here and stop your journey in your life. It's like, yeah, are you going to miss them? Yeah, but you know what? They're still around. Pay attention. They can still send you messages from the spirit world, because we are all spirit in this vessel. So it's okay to just say, hey, celebrate their life, send them on their way, but get on with your life, right? So you have those choices. You can remain in a certain feeling for a short time or a long time. What's the difference? In the short time, you keep advancing forward. When you stay in a feeling for a long time, whatever that feeling is, it begins to be stagnant and it moves you backwards, because again, you're bringing things from old beliefs, right?
That's when people start feeling that feeling is stuck, right? So the idea
Right.
is to feel every experience to the fullest, but let it flow through you and you can move forward.
Right.
But I find that often, and that's a big challenge, that we don't realize we have a choice. We get so stuck
That's
in
right.
our day to
That's
day
right.
that we lose track of the fact. And even though we don't want to be stuck. Nobody chooses to be stuck in sadness or in fear, and yet they're like, but oh, so I do have a choice. Number one, and then it's, but I don't. First of all, it may not resonate that they have a choice. We have
Right.
to get through the layers that show them that yes, you have a choice, and get comfortable with that notion.
Right.
And then it's like, well, then what's holding me back? Because because people want to better themselves, but they find these obstacles and these boulders in the way.
And that's that automatic pilot from an old belief system, and I work with a 5 system little technique to remove those layers, as you call them, right? Whatever those blocks you want to label, right? And it's called the rah-rah system. And this is something that I've developed over the years from the work that I've done to make it very simple. And I didn't say easy, but very simple steps. First off, recognize we have an issue in our database of information that's running on autopilot that isn't taking us into that better space of who we are. And then to acknowledge that as your truth. And I think this is where people have the most difficult. Well, wait a minute, I don't believe in that. Whoa, there's a difference of truth and belief. Okay, so when you created that structure, that automatic pilot response, the database of information you had back then was your truth, and it was your belief, and it solidified So now it's repeating that. So you need to acknowledge that it was a truth. Now it's a false truth. But if you don't acknowledge that, you're not going to be able to pull it out by the root. You're just going to kind of slice the top off and bury the rest of it. And it will come back to bite you, right? So it's like, acknowledge it.
Right.
And when you...
And the important, and the important part about that always to realize that, I don't know if it's your truth, but it was what perhaps you felt you needed to do at the time. At the time, it was also a choice. We come to this world, we don't have any layers. Unless we're bringing some, ancestral layers or from our DNA. But after that, they are placed as, usually they are placed as the way in which a very primal experience is going to land on us, right, and hit us, because we have no filters when we're very young.
Right.
And so that becomes a belief about ourselves, or as a protective mechanism. So we need to understand that
it's that survival.
Thank ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's okay to thank yourself for it, because at the time it allowed you to come to this point where now you no longer need it.
Exactly. Right? And that it is such a strong belief and a truth that's stuck in that cell memory, because your brain's going to say, when you try to go against it, that's that inner conflict. The brain has the neural pathways for that message to come up out of the cell and start talking to you. It's like, wait a minute. Now you can't do that. Are you crazy? Do you remember what happened back here when you were 10 years old and blah, 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 right?
Exactly. And it's trying to be helpful, by the way.
Yes.
The brain is really trying to, it's like an overprotective.
Yes.
Overprotective with no judgment, no nuancing. It's all black or all white. And so
that's right.
Come and say, it's just offering us an opinion. We can take it or leave it, but we need to question it first. We need to take that step back, and we place some energetic distance and some, intellectual and emotional distance between what our brain says before we react to it.
Right. And that's a key word. That reaction, because it is on autopilot. We do react to it, and we know we react to it, and we don't want that reaction, but you have to recognize that is because it was stored back then, and back then it was your safety net. It's what helped you get through that trauma. It's what helped you survive, right? But it doesn't serve a purpose. But it's instilled in you, in that cell, because of how traumatic it was, and you didn't want to repeat it. And
that's
so
right. And exactly. And you know what though? But it doesn't define you either. Because
no.
Especially with my corporate clients, I deal with some people who are very successful in their corporate life, but in their personal life, or they still feel held back. And they have a protective mechanism, and then they feel bad about the protective mechanism.
Right.
And I'm like, absolutely not. In fact, your younger self was already savvy enough to allow you to survive and to get through something. So it's subconsciously, sort of in that sort of automatic pilot mode, put something in place that would allow you to continue to be, even
that's
if
right.
it wasn't ideal, so that you can get to this point. The only problem is you forgot to remove it because you weren't aware that you put it there in the first place.
And that's the whole thing. It's that recognizing and acknowledging that, hey, this was my survival mechanism. This is what I needed to get me past that point to keep on going forward. And now it doesn't serve purpose. So it's communicating with that cell where that memory is, like going into that subconscious, into that inner child. There's a lot of different ways you can make that appear. But know that it has been a truth for a long time, because it was your safety net. And now
at the time it was really a good one.
So gosh.
You create, and if you created it, then you are above it. Because a lot of people identify themselves with that limiting belief.
Yeah.
Oh, then it must be that way. But no, you created the limited belief. So the creator of it can create a different belief.
Yes, you can uncreate what you created. But you have to remember the database you had when you created that is not the same database you have. So your truth of today may be your faults tomorrow. Your faults of yesterday may be your truth today. Right?
And that's fine, and that's okay.
That's perfect. It's database of information. Database of experiences. So when you can do that, that now gives you the opportunity to really set yourself free and to release it, to let it go, because it no longer serves purpose, right? And once you have that void, universe
create
doesn't
something
like
new.
void, so you better put something in there that you want. Because if you don't put in there what you want, what's going to happen? What you don't want's going to jump in there, and you're going to be right back
Some
where you
people
started
jump in
from.
anyways. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Something always jumps in. But in that void, so sometimes when we have a void, people feel even more lost. But the void is an opportunity to create.
That's
So
right.
when we have a void, rather than, especially in today's society, we need to be distracted 24/7. But it's okay to have a void. And this slowing down now where people are home, it's an opportunity to create a void.
To put in
Right?
there what you want.
And then
What is
once you
that
have
new
that
belief?
void,
What is that new
Exactly.
thing that
exactly,
you want
it's
to
an
put on
opportunity to
autopilot?
take a step back and to sort of take stock and sort of regroup with yourself and see,
Right.
well, what do I want to work on? Because I have the time now, I have the opportunity, I really can take that step back, create some sort of void. There are a lot less distractions out there. You have to stay home. That's one of them, right? And then within that void, now can you want to, it's like, you know, I want to like redecorate my room, you know? So I want to move things around. So internally, we can move things around. It moves, we know it moves the energy, it moves the look of it
Right.
and the feel of a place. You can repaint your insides. You can change the furniture around. You can remove some stuff, bring in new furniture.
Right.
Same thing. Bring
Well,
in
and
new-
it's that reflection. You know, when you take a really good look at the world that you're existing in right now, you know, like you say, you just look at your office, or you go into your kitchen, you go into your bedroom, wherever it is. When you look at what that exterior world is if it's in chaos, then you need to look internally. Where is the chaos internally? Right? And how do you fix it? So if you're going to move things outside of your existence, you're also moving things internally. And when you move things internally, things outside automatically shift.
Yes,
Right?
and much faster. That's the direct
Yes,
route.
much
You find
faster.
Sometimes people clean up their homes and they're like, oh, it feels so much better.
Yeah.
Right, it's the 4 walls that you clean, right? It's the floor. But because we are intricately connected to everything around us from an
We are.
energetic perspective.
Yeah. And we can really learn so much from the situation going on in the world today by just moving away from the fear and say, okay, what's the lesson we're going to take out of here? Where is the wisdom of change going to come from? And it has to start in here.
Always. And
Always
what's the
in here.
opportunity? Can I look at this as an opportunity? And an opportunity for what? Can I take some time for me? Can I face myself, see what's there, and work with that in a nice, gentle, kind way? But it'll get me very far.
Yeah, you were forced, 4 years ago, you were forced to take that year's time to make a different you, a better you, a you, however it was that you were doing it. You were given that opportunity in a split second. It's no different than what is happening today. Here we were one day, life is going on like it always was, and then poof, it's like, whoa, everybody has to go home and stay home, and it's like, what? Right?
Exactly. And I do recommend taking that message and not waiting the way I did, or not hearing the message and getting some sort of like hit on the head for real. But yes, everyday life is actually an opportunity. And even when we have our rat race and we're running around,
That's right.
we need to take a moment and really sort of designate time for ourselves, because that's how we get to know ourselves.
That's exactly right.
Designate time with a spouse or with a child or with a friend. Designate some time with you, not to be busy with other things, but just to be with yourself and check in.
Yeah.
Because then a lot comes up in that conversation.
Well, it does. It does, and it's given us opportunity to really look. And usually what happens is we put ourselves on the back burner because we're so busy being busy, wanting to make everybody else, better and fix them. It's like, you can't fix anything out there. You can only fix in here. And it's really not even a fixing. It's just a growing. Being that better you. What is it that you're going to do to be that better you? Because a better you inside is an expression of a better you outside, which then makes that better world your destiny of where you want. That's your creation. But it starts in here.
It always starts in here, and when you work from the inside out, you'll see the world smiles back at you.
Yes.
It really does.
It really does.
The whole interaction with it changes on a dime, and you enjoy it, and you get such depth of quality of life in a whole other way. And I do believe that everyone deserves and can reach that inner self. It might take a bit of work, and that's okay. There are a lot of coaches out there. You know, everybody has
That's
a different way of doing it, but it's all to help people reach their inner essence, who they are,
Exactly.
and work from that place. Because from that place, you can go and do and
And be.
live in
Yeah.
the way that you
Yeah.
envision yourself. When you have the vision for it, it's because you also have the capability. It's also because you have the desire. There is no desire for something unless you would be able to reach it.
Exactly.
But
And if you
you
don't,
have the desire,
yeah,
and then
if you don't
the
have
work
those,
to get there.
you get stagnant. You have to have that
Yeah.
reachable goal. You need those unreachable goals to keep you driving to make them reachable.
Right, but they're always more reachable when we think. Otherwise, we wouldn't have them in the first place.
That's
We
right.
wouldn't think of them. But sometimes we just, lose that confidence, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's where we can be guided along the way.
Yep, that's exactly right. Oh my gosh, Martine, this has been such a treat. We could
Wonderful.
talk and talk and talk forever.
For hours, right? And thank you so much for doing this, Beverly. I mean, it's wonderful. It's so generous of you, and I'm loving this interaction and this opportunity. For me, it's a little bit of growth.
Well, that's
Right?
good. It's and that's what it's all meant to be. And thank you for choosing, this show to be your first, right?
It is my
Your
first. This is a
your
growth
debut.
moment.
Yes. Yes. And that's wonderful. And you did great. You did great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And it's all about being organic. It's all about being authentic. And that's why I don't make my shows where it's like, okay, let's see, what's the next question, right? And what's the next
Right.
question? Now, to me, that's not being real. That's staged, and life is not staged. And so,
Oh, no. It is certainly not staged. Nobody could have envisioned it. But that's the best that comes out of people, is when you're not worried about staging, but you just
Right.
allow yourself to just stumble and catch yourself and keep going.
that's right. It's recognize what's going around in the world around you. Martine, how can our viewers find you if they want to reach out?
So absolutely. So I have a website. They can find me at www.nomorelayers.com.
Okay.
And they can take a look at the website there, see the services that I offer, and they can also email me at martine@nomorelayers.com.
Well, alrighty then. So
And
let us know
Any
how
of
you
them
guys.
want to have. I also give these sort of a 20-minute session now that's absolutely free. I've been doing that for the last month,
Okay.
especially in light of the situation that's going on now. A lot of people are struggling or trying to find a new path and their new route. So I'm happy to help. It's just a 20-minute session where we can talk. I can give some guidance, and they can go on their way if they feel that could be of service to them in any way. I think we all, at this point, and that's one thing I wanted to bring up, is how much kindness that the world has been showered with during this, difficult and unusual
Right.
situation.
Oh,
And
I so
everybody
agree.
rising up and doing what they can to help in whatever area they know how. This is the area I know how, so I'm happy to do that.
Well, thank you for sharing that. So, did you guys hear that? She's willing to give you 20 minutes. Comment below. Reach out, PM her, right? You know where her website is. We put the little picture up there. It'll be up above as well, so that you can contact her and let her help you move through some of this. At least get a start. People need people. Coaches need coaches. Everyone needs someone.
We need each other. We all need each other. We're all part of
Yes.
the same, tribe. We're all part of that humanity. And like we started off the show, there's a lot more that unites us than divides us. And we see that now so much more clearer.
Oh, thank you for repeating that. That was so needed. That was so needed. And again, thank you, Martine. We're gonna wrap this show up.
So much,
Otherwise,
Beverly.
we're gonna be into next week talking. So thank you all for joining us. Let us know how you like the show, and we will see you on the next show. So go out there and be that best you that you can be, because Martine and I are gonna be the best we that we can be. See you guys later.